I am still a big believer when it comes to Velo. A dollar is still my price target, and I'm not giving up. Even though that's not financial advice, it's not my style to give up for no reason. I believe in fundamentally amazing projects, and I do believe Velo is exactly that, because sometimes people talk about Velo, but they only talk about the price action. They only take a look at the charts, but they don't take a look at the fundamentals. They don't take a look at what it's trying to do in the grand scheme of things. And I think this right here is actually, a turning point for many people to not believe in it in some cases because they don't know what it's all about. But I know what it's all about because I think it's amazing. And let me explain, even though, again, I'm not telling anyone to buy Velo, but this is just my perspective. Take into consideration how Velo is a blockchain-enabled financial system and decentralized settlement network that is designed to make the transfer of value between one country to another more efficient. Now, people may be thinking, okay, this is kind of complicated. Let's simple things down. Basically, Velo is focused on cost-effective cross-border payments and as well as remittances. We got to take into consideration how, first of all, the payments market is currently valued at over $2 trillion as we speak. I mean, that's crazy. Take into consideration how the GDP of Canada back in 2023 was around $2 trillion. Again, this is a massive market that they're focused on. However, the real McCoy really when it comes to Velo is the fact that it has the remittance aspect, right? Again, it is focused on remittances, and you got to take into consideration why this is something that could be very amazing. Now, as an example as to what a remittance is let's say I'm from Brazil, right? I'm from São Paulo, and then I'm working in, let's say, Sydney, Australia. And I've been to Australia many times, by the way, but let's say this is a hypothetical scenario. Let's say that is the case. If someone is working there, let's say in this case, and someone sends money back home, that right there is considered a remittance. So when you take into consideration how a lot of people theoretically do work abroad, this right here is something that should need a very efficient solution. And that right there is where something like Velo could step in and save the day. As a matter of fact, if you take into consideration, according to Grandview Research, the global digital remittance market is expected to reach over $60 billion by 2030. So that's insane right there. Clearly, there's a lot of potential there. Not to mention, we have to consider how Velo, more specifically, what did they start off being focused on in terms of remittances? They were initially focused on the Southeast Asian region in terms of, being focused on the market, right? Again, Southeast Asia. Now, you may be thinking, okay, why Southeast Asia more specifically? It's because based on data, it showcases how there's actually a lot of international workers from Southeast Asia. Take into consideration how, according to BPV, back in 2020, so it's practically like 5 years ago at this point, even then, right? At that point, there was nearly 24 million Southeast Asians living outside their country of origin. So you got to imagine their mints there, right? I'm not necessarily saying that every single person who's working abroad is going to send money back home, but I would assume that if, let's say, they have family or let's say they just want to send it back home for whatever reason, this could be, again, something that is in need of a very efficient solution because of the sheer numbers of people who do work abroad. And I think it's only fair to assume that ever since 2020, there's potentially going to be more people who worked abroad, right? So this is very fantastic in my opinion. Take into consideration how, again, Velo, they have their sights in the right area in a sense that they understand that being focused on Southeast Asia was a good move, and I think it's a good move as well. Take into consideration how Velo isn't necessarily this one-trick pony either, because take into consideration, right, their USDV stablecoin. Now, you may be thinking, okay, we don't really need another stablecoin, but I think that the partnerships when it comes to this would beg to differ. Take into consideration how, for instance, when you take a look at not too long ago, we have to view Velo's involvement with BlackRock. And yes, we've all heard about BlackRock, pretty much one of the biggest things out there. But even besides that, more specifically with BlackRock's tokenized short-term treasury fund into their USDV stablecoin. I mean, that's insane right there. That's crazy. Again, BlackRock, that's pretty much one of the biggest things out there again. So if there's even news associated with that, it showcases how impressive Velo is. And USDV, yes, I get it. There's many competitors. I don't think USDV is ever going to defeat like USDC or USDT. But again, I think this is very amazing. Not to mention, Velo also had a collaboration, in a sense, with the Laos Bullion Bank to integrate gold into the blockchain. So again, this is very amazing stuff. When you take a look at Velo, they don't play no games. They're actually a very serious project. I get it. There's, of course, room in my portfolio for meme coins and whatnot. But again, sometimes I do want a serious project like this, for, a foundational piece in my portfolio. However, even besides that, we have to take a look at how Velo as well, they have something called Quantum, which is a one-stop lightning speed remittance network, something called Universe, which is a multi-chain super decentralized exchange. There's also Nova Chain, an affordable universal blockchain network, Orbit, which is a crypto super app, and last but not least, Warp, which is a multi-network cross-chain bridge. So again, it's very, diverse in terms of its focus and what it's made out of, in a sense, right? Its makeup, in a sense. Not to mention, we have to consider how Velo is also focused on something called CDFI. This stands for Centralized Decentralized Finance. And as the name goes, it basically combines the good aspects of centralized finance with decentralized finance. So that's a thumbs up for me. When I take a look at Velo, isn't this pretty much one of the greatest projects of all time? I get it. It's not going to be the number one project of all time, of course. I don't think it's going to defeat like a Solana or like a BNB or like an Ethereum or Bitcoin, let alone. I'm not saying that, but then it doesn't really matter because achieving a glimpse of them, I think, is already very impressive. Take into consideration, if Velo were to go to the price of $1, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $7.5 billion, which is now around a 58x from here because, after all, the market hasn't been doing the best, I should say, and then Velo is having, price action that people would call not that great. So as a result of that, of course, $1 is now a lot better in terms of hypothetical upside. But sometimes people view this in the opposite way, right? They think that the lower something is, the worse it is. However, in my opinion, the lower something is, the better the buying opportunity for me. And again, sometimes dips, they could hypothetically be a blessing in disguise, in my opinion. So I don't view this as a bad thing. And when there's over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research, I don't think this burn is going to be bad. That's more than ever before in history. Just imagine as April, May, June, July comes along. It could be a totally different story, which is why I'm still staying patient. And keep in mind, a $7.5 billion market cap, how's that crazy? That's not even 10% of Dogecoin's all-time high market cap. I don't think it's insane. And historically speaking, we do know that altcoins usually, as a worst-case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after Bitcoin halving event. That would actually mean around October this year because the last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of last year. So even historically, we do know that as a worst case, we're nowhere near yet when things are supposed to peak as, again, a worst case. So I don't get why people are kind of panicking. Well, I kind of get it to a certain extent because sometimes people, maybe they don't take a look at stuff like this. And also sometimes people focus too much on the price. But personally for me, day to day, week to week, price movements, they could be very volatile. That's not something I'm necessarily concerned with because I am not a day trader. I'm not in here to use leverage or swing trade. That's not my style. When I accumulate in something, I just continue to believe in it. I don't give up and I just stick it out because the way to take a look at it is if I believe in it, I want to see the result. Whatever the result is. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to be 100% correct or anything like that, but I just want to wait and see. I just want to wait and see until the end of this year. What happens to Velo? You know what I mean? Again, I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to do anything. However, I just want to wait and see because that is my style. I view this as a marathon. It's not a sprint for me. And I still believe in it. And again, $1 hypothetically during this bull run wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace. Bye.